this is so fancy.
So, Sophia, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, how you got into real estate and all those good things?
Yes, thank you so much for having me. So I've been in Miami for 10 years. I've been practicing real estate since 2016, but my family has been in real estate much longer. So as anything good, it's been around for a long time, Avanti Way. And but I never worked with them full time. Since 2016, I started with a boutique firm who showed me the ins and out in the construction world, because Miami is growing as you see it. So a lot of I dived into construction, and it made me a great real estate agent, because when I go to those inspections, I bring in the boots, I bring in the hat, I get down on my knees, and construction is a great foundation for great agents.
100%. I think you bring up an interesting point too. A lot of homes in Miami are so old that they just need to be raised and reconstructed.
Right.
Like this home that we're in, for example, 1945.
Beautiful.
You know what I mean? It's beautiful, but like 1945, we're approaching 80 years.
But you know
what
the
I mean?
construction back in the day is not the same as the construction today. Like you could see it in Lennar homes, you could see it in the deterioration. Back in the day, the construction was more robust.
Of course. So I just recently read an article or a book about, I can't remember, I think it was a little article, but it basically goes to why banks want the construction to be the way that it is, and why Lennar Homes, for example, a tract home builder, is building homes that way. Like all the little intricate pieces and details and all the interior design that went into all the buildings back then, it's just more headache for the bank. And it's like, they would just want simple and clean because they know that they can turn it quickly. It's less of an investment and a worry for them, and they just want to get their money back real quickly. So I was reading a little article on that, and I'm not doing a very good job like diving deep into it, but it was super interesting because it got me into the architecture space of like, hey, okay, I'm noticing these differences. Let's dive into like why these differences are occurring.
Right. You know, we both live in older homes. 1925, I purchased in the Gables, right before everything went up. People always ask me, what's the perfect time? And I'm the worst person to ask that question, because I say it's whenever you're ready. It's very touche, very cliche. My English is not very good looking. You know who said that?
Who's that?
Celia Cruz.
I don't even know who that is.
Every single Miami person knows who Celia Cruz is. You know, just like residency, you should have, in order to get Miami residency, there should be a questionnaire.
Celia Cruz class?
Yes. You know, they have an FIU, a Celia Cruz class.
Who's she?
So she is an iconic salsa musician. She is a singer, and she's so iconic because of her, let's say, redemptious moves and her voice and the confidence that she portrayed. And she's a representation of Cuban strong woman. She is she's even on a coin, a United States coin. Yes, she made.
Which coin?
The quarter.
She's on the quarter?
She's on a quarter. They did a dedication for her.
Really? So there's like a set amount of quarters that were made with her face on it?
Yes.
Or like, okay.
Yes.
That's super cool.
Yes. I'm a jazz performer. Mm-hmm. I love one of my favorite jazz locations here in Coral Gables on Miracle Mile is the Armstrong Jazz Bar. And, you know, music brings together a city. You know, that's why we have a lot of musicians, Shakira, Mark Anthony. We have a lot. Miami's attracting such a Bad Bunny. We're attracting such a beautiful air of musicians and artists, and Celia Cruz is one of them. I'm telling you, people. If you want to have your Miami residency, you got to know who Celia Cruz is.
Well, I guess I wouldn't pass.
Now you will.
Okay, so now I know she's on a quarter. So now after this podcast, of course, I'm going to go down the Google rabbit hole and figure out more about her. But that's cool.
Yes.
And you're a jazz performer, you said.
That's right. So on Miracle Mile, it's such a great addition, the Armstrong Jazz Bar, because Coral Gables, elegance, the city beautiful, right? Elegance is what Coral Gable is a representation of. And what is elegance? Elegance is the preservation and the way that you show your strength. And that's why beauty, right? That's why we have, models who are very fit. Now it's not skinny. Now the new beautiful is strong, right? Like, are you firm? How straight do you sit? And Coral Gables is a perfect example of that. Homes that stand strong after 100 years. And some people say, oh, how annoying it is, Coral Gables, all the rules, but that's...
The permits. Everybody complains about the permitting process. Like, I remember saying, oh, I want to move into Coral Gables. Every single person I talked to, good luck with permits, good luck with permits. I'm like, I'm willing to take that. Like, you have to pay a price to have such a beautiful neighborhood in a beautiful area.
Right.
Like, y'all look at that as a pain? Like, come on. Like, you got bigger things to worry about than pulling permits.
Right. But it is one of the ways that it represents beauty, because we maintain a consistency. For example, no fake grass, right? They push you to have real grass. The other day, I had a little small turf area, and I got fined. It was like a $500 fine. Yeah.
That's crazy.
It was just because I had a puppy, and I don't know, they like the turf better. And it was so hard because it's coral. It's so hard to grow grass in some of these areas because you dig and it's coral.
It's literally rock like an inch under or whatever.
Right.
Coral an inch under. Okay, so now tell me about this, because I know a lot of people have the fake grass between the spaces in their driveway. You know what I'm talking about?
Of course.
Okay, so has there been any issue with that?
That's modern homes have that. You don't see that in Coral Gables. You don't see that type. It's very rare. And I believe that they would also get fined, because the preservation of nature is what we value here in Coral Gables. Natural beauty.
I've heard stories of developers having to like move a tree, like the
oak tree?
Yeah, the oak trees. Like they had to move it, right? And it costs a couple $100,000.
Yes.
But like the city's like, no, you cannot cut this tree down at all.
It's beautiful. It's so romantic, Coral Gables as well. Walking down or driving through Coral Way and seeing the beautiful canopies. My mother always says, oh, it's the kissing trees.
There you go.
It's romantic. Coral Gables, it represents beauty, romanticism, conservation. Over here in Miami, things go so quick, and even people. So Miami is a transient city, and that's why it becomes lonely. Because the preservations of friends.
You are 100% on this. You hit it on the head.
Yeah.
Keep going.
And it's a big reason of why we can grow. Because like money, banks want you to move money around. They don't, it's the way that we keep currency, how we move money, right? And this is what's made Miami such a fast growing city, because we grew almost overnight. Miami's not that old. We're still a baby. And it's the transient culture that we welcome, that we just even foster. Because look at all the accommodations for hotel, like just look how it's growing. Lots of you see a rise. We have the data on the commercial real estate and how everything is just, it's the new variances in many neighborhoods. And that's the beautiful thing about Coral Gables, that we've preserved that. And it's so nice coming home and reminding myself that even though I am in a transient city, it's nice to go back to my old roots. And as a matter of fact, fun fact, I'm from Granada, Nicaragua.
Okay.
Do you know where that is?
No. Granada, though. I know. You're like, okay, well, Granada Boulevard.
I've gotten asked if that's in Africa.
Okay.
But it is right above Costa Rica.
Okay.
In Central America.
Okay.
So fun fact, we were actually going to have, before the Panama Canal was built, the United States proposed, and many investors proposed it to go through Nicaragua, but we are the land of lakes and volcanoes. So they were concerned because we have 23 active volcanoes that wasn't going to be possible. So the trade, and it's so impactful how infrastructure can really make or break a city. Like you see us, so we're growing as Miami, but it's like a lot of people and investors ask, is the infrastructure growing with it? Like schools.
That's a big topic. We have Ransom and Gulliver right here, and then what else? 50,000 a year per kid.
Right.
Crazy.
So the infrastructure, you see Panama, and you feel like you're in Miami. You go to Nicaragua, and it would have been so life changing. Like our trajectory would have been completely different. Our destiny, if we would have had the canal go through ours. And it's much more convenient because we're right in the center, and it was a small strip. It was actually very inconvenient.
So you're frustrated that the canal didn't go through your city and instead it went through
Panama, as we know it, the Panama
Okay,
Canal.
So you would rather it have gone through Nicaragua.
Oh, it would have been great, but just like its people,
interesting.
We're very volcanic, we're very explosive.
Sure. Well, that's an interesting take because I know nothing about like that world down there, Central South America, any of that, right? So it's interesting to hear. I mean,
being in the gateway to South America, you should.
Yeah, you're right. I should.
Celia Cruz gateway. This is another exam.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I moved down.
Your Miami residency is not looking good. But
well, so I moved from Wisconsin 3 years ago, and like I'm a COVID guy, right? Like everybody came down during COVID. You said that like you bought in Coral Gables in 2017 before the big upturn. I was part of that big upturn. You know what I mean? So it's like a lot of the things that you understand and a lot of the cultures down here, I wasn't so connected with before. But now through this podcast, it's so interesting because I'm learning like so much about different cultures and different peoples and their stories. Like I had a gentleman on here talking about his raft ride over. Like he was like on the raft. Like, and he's telling me this, and I'm like, what? This is like so crazy. I had never experienced it. Like, I'm from Wisconsin. Like, maybe you had to come down through the snow in Canada to get to the United States or whatever the case may be. But it's like, it's so much different than what I'm used to.
Right.
Interesting. Right. So okay, what's that? Can we dive deeper into the canal?
Of course.
Okay, so you wish it was in Nicaragua. And the development would have been more significant in Nicaragua if the canal was through there.
Of course.
Okay.
Like if you logistically, right? If you look at Nicaragua, it's a very small strip. It would have gone through a lake that connects with the two oceans. As a matter of fact, Lago Cocibolca, which means sweet water, when they first discovered it, right? These conquistadores thought it was still the ocean, but when they tried it, it's sweet water, and that's a neighborhood that we also have here in Miami, Sweetwater. Lots of Nicaraguans, love it.
For real?
Yes.
So Sweetwater has a lot of Nicaraguans because of the name correlation?
Well, I don't know about that, right? And as realtors, we can't say this neighborhood has this certain, I have friends, a lot of Nicaraguan friends, so that's why I'm saying that they're there. Now, I don't know about the logistics. You can look it up here.
I see, okay.
But, where people's ID comes from, that's actually how we get the data, because if somebody purchases real estate and they have a foreign ID, that's how we can see the demographics
where they're coming from
of an area.
Sure.
So Sweetwater is comes from that history of Nicaragua. So Lago Cocibolca has even sharks because it's connected with the ocean. So it's sweet. It's a lake. It's a huge lake, and it gets so windy that you can actually surf there. It's beautiful, and you're surrounded by volcanoes. And if you go with somebody that doesn't like you, or you fall off the boat, the lake is so big that you cannot. There comes a point where you can't see any land if you're stranded, and if you don't know where you're going.
All you see is blue. You're in the middle of a.
It's actually black. Well, not brown. So you get murky waters. You can't see. But it's beautiful. So the conquistadores said, we're going to call it the Sweet Ocean, Lago Cocibolca. So Nicaragua has a very rich history, and we even have a lot of amazing investors here, such as Enrique Teran. He's Nicaraguan. I'm Nicaraguan.
Who's he?
Enrique Teran was vice president of the Miami Association of Realtors, and he is an advocate for the real estate technology. That is his thing. That's
Is this
his
your
jam.
cousin?
Yes.
With Avanti Way, who owns Avanti Way,
Correct.
the brokerage.
Correct.
So can you spell Avanti Way for me, just so everybody watching can?
AVANTI way.
Avanti
And
Way.
I'll send you a picture.
Is it AvantiWay.com?
Yes.
Okay.
AvantiWay.com. And the reason we have over 1,800 agents in our firm. And the reason why we've attracted so many agents is because we offer a very unique technology. We have a one-stop shop. We have Avanti Way Financial. We have Avanti Way, the title company portfolio. We have Avanti Capital. We manage over $1 billion of assets. And we have very happy investors.
That's good. Good returns.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes. We've done very well and internationally as well, Bolivia
You have Avanti Way in Bolivia, or that's where your investors are putting?
Yes, we have
money from?
Avanti Way Bolivia.
Oh, okay.
We're in other countries as well, not just Miami, because remember we are the gateway to South America. So
That's like the company's like motto or slogan.
Avanti Way, what is our slogan? Be awesome.
There you go.
I don't know. I know I worked with Redfin for 2 years, and their slogan was redefining real estate. Redfin, right? And as a Gen Z, I've always been attracted to technology. I was raised with technology, and Redfin has always been ahead of the curve. They knew, for example, about the NAR lawsuit. They foresee it. They knew Zillow, the competitor, was going to be part of it.
Dude, they're probably the biggest, advocate for a lawsuit like that, right?
I wouldn't say that.
It seems like their business model would be like,
Because-
hey, let's make something more favorable towards us.
Right. So when Redfin is a one-stop shop, and we've always had to disclose all of the businesses when I was in Redfin.
Like title, lending,
Right.
all that
And
stuff.
even buyer's agency, knowing if I show you this property, like I have the duty to represent you. And so Redfin knew that in order for a client, because this is recent, like buyer's agents getting commission, that's all recent, but people don't talk a lot about it. So I see, in my opinion, the biggest beneficiary is Zillow, and you can see in Zillow Showcase there. It's funny. I feel like this lawsuit is Zillow, for example, is an opportunity, right? It has created an opportunity for tech companies who agents pay leads, right?
I used to spend like $15,000 a month on Zillow, by the way, in Wisconsin. We were burning, like we were crushing deals. In Wisconsin, it works a lot different.
I've never paid a
than
single
our-
penny for a lead.
That's amazing. It doesn't work in Coral Gables. I tried in Coral Gables, but
doesn't.
everybody's so intelligent they just go to the listing agent unless you have like a very, very wide array of knowledge. Like now living here and like going through and like showing him all the things wrong with my house, like I'm for sure, like I know Gables now. But when I bought Zillow, I didn't live in Gables. So they would go direct to listing agent. And I'm just sitting there like, all right, here we go. Now I think I could represent like a buyer and like be very, very successful in it, which is interesting.
Right.
But different models, because up there in Wisconsin, like there's not so many realtors. There's not that many good, like the market's just way different.
But
so we were just
I'm telling you, I'm really glad I never bought a lead, because I feel like think about it conceptually.
It's helping the enemy.
Exactly.
I know exactly where you're going. Yeah, it's helping the enemy, 100%.
Right.
Zillow is like against us, and it's kind of them versus us, and they're kind of like building that while also simultaneously taking our money to build their business. Like the revenue off of leads that they get from realtors across the country, insane.
Exactly.
Insane. And what are they doing with that? Reinvesting into knocking us down and beating us down and building their reputation and taking our clients and all these things.
Exactly.
It's very interesting. It's like give and take. Which way do you want to go? Totally understand.
So it has been a double-edged sword. And this is why Enrique right, has been such he's really an advocate for the agent. We have technology that really sets you up not to fail. From our CRM systems to all of the data and even our website, right? And they also push the agenda of having you are your own brand. And that's really important. Zillow, what does it do? It takes away that brand. At the end of the day,
Zillow behind it, in front of it. Yeah, in front.
You don't want that. You don't want that. And so you want to partner with people that put you before them. Would you want to be with friends with somebody that consistently put themselves before you?
No.
So why are you exactly same concept?
Socialista is just such an awesome place because I feel like the quality of people that go there is elite. So like if you're trying to meet good people or good friends or like investors, business partners, whatever, like Socialista was a great place to meet people. So I always enjoyed going there instead of like, I don't know, some of the other rundown places.
Oh, excuse me. This is how Coral Gables will get you to think. Everything is just rundown. Everything is
like Wynwood.
Right. So my saying over here, there's just some things in life that it's just it's the way it works. And we're not going to change it. And I'm actually going to bring it up on my phone. So these are the words that really struck me the other day, and it explains how you attract abundance if you have abundance, right? Abundance attracts abundance. It's an energy. It's just like the science. Energy can never be lost. It can only be transformed. And your transformation comes when you attract the abundance. And so, simple way. So, for example, banks lend you more money when you're already rich. People help you more when you no longer need help. You're most attractive when you're happily married. Wealth attracts wealth. That's just how it works. So what do you think about that?
I think that putting yourself in those positions is going to help you attract that help, that attractiveness, that money from the bank, all of those things. So my mom's big into this, and I always write down my goals and kind of dive into the attraction, and I used to watch The Secret. Have you ever seen The Secret?
No.
Okay. So it talks about all this like attraction energy and all that stuff, but my mom would play it almost every day before school. So we would watch it on repeat. And she is always like, don't say that or you're going to create that. Like,
right.
If you say certain things around her, she's like, don't say that or you're going to create it.
Right.
So you have to like alter the way that you speak in order to create that real thing into existence.
Exactly.
So I'm fully on board with that, and I totally agree with it. And I love that quote, and I'm excited to share that with them too. I think they're going to like it. You want to break it down for me and dive into a little bit about what it means to you and how it's affected you and all those things?
Of course. So banks lend you more money when you have money. Banks are in the business to take calculated risks, right? And many times when you walk into a bank, it's about who you know, how you're presenting yourself, because it shows how you do anything is how you will do everything. And they are attracted to wealth. If they feel that you're going to move money around because you have an experience of doing so and creating an abundance of it, then they're going to lend you more. They're not with the mentality that I already lent you this much, so we're going to stop you. They want to continue.
Real estate is the number one product that human beings consume. And if it weren't for real estate, banks would be in a lot of trouble.
Oh, 100%.
So that's why they incentivize real estate so much as far as tax incentives, like the interest on your loan, like writing off the insurance expense, writing off all these things. Like if people stop purchasing real estate, it's over for the banks. As we learned a lot in 2008. So they fixed the red tape around that, and like, yes, you have to qualify and show all these statements and all this stuff right now. But that's why the banks incentivize real estate so much.
Right.
Real estate keeps the banks afloat.
Correct. And what I see is that with politics, people have been complaining about some politicians, speaking of incentives, the taxation, if you own over $100 million in assets, 25% is going to be taxed even before you sell it. It's for big corporations, because if big corporations own majority of the real estate, like BlackRock or any of those big banks, then the common people, right? It's good because they'll be moving money around amongst themselves, but it's going to have the common, you and I it's going to be more difficult for us to purchase.
They don't want us to purchase. The whole goal is for them to own everything and us to own nothing, because then they keep all the wealth within the top elite or in the top companies. Like, the whole mentality of own nothing and be happy in the future, that's 100% going to become a reality for 99% of the population. Because it's like, you know how much money you have to make to purchase in Coral Gables right now?
How much?
I don't know, but it's insane. You know what I mean? Like, to purchase a entry home at 1.5 million, which is a 2-bed, 1-bath.
Right.
Like, that's a crazy amount of money that not a lot of people are going to own.
Right.
So, like, I think it is getting pushed that way, and people just don't understand, and they don't really care, because in these new luxury apartment buildings, maybe that you're developing or that I'll develop in the future, right? It's like, you have all the amenities, you have a pool,
right?
But to have a house with a pool, $2 million bucks. You know what I mean? Like, in Coral Gables, you can get one, or you can install your own pool for $100,000 or $200,000. Still a ton of money. Or you can pay $3,000 a month in rent and get access to the pool, the gym, the walkability, all those things.
So back to my point that I was saying earlier, when people say, when should I buy? Buy when you're ready. Don't wait. The market's going to continue without you. Buy now, because the first one is always the most difficult.
100%.
The first purchase is the most difficult in regards to entry, and banks are
confidence.
Going to
the unknown is so scary that people just like haven't been through that process. So they're like, But then once you get through it once, you're like, it's a drug. This is my heroin. And then you're just like, boom, 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 boom. It's rolling.
Right, exactly. So the next one, people help you more when you no longer need help. So, when I'm most successful, when right after a closing, I just closed $1.5 million and I attracted a $3 million client,
your energy
a $2
is
million
different.
client, because people don't see a desperation, right? And it's very attractive. It's very attractive. And that's why you're most attractive when you're already happily married. You're already having a stable and reliable relationship.
Not a care in the world towards anyone else.
Which you can reflect that in all of your other relationships. And
I see.
Wealth attracts wealth, right?
So let's break that down a little bit further. So you talked about closing a deal, right? And then you're vibrant, you have this energy that you're not in need, so you attract that.
Correct.
Right? So what do you think in that specific, let's dive deeper. Can you dive deeper with me? Mm-hmm. I don't know where you want to go with it, but
it's really important to know that you start to build when you have your foundation, right? And you're more confident once you establish something, once you know your end goal, right? So your end goal is to marry. When you get into a relationship, if people get into a relationship, they go in with an incentive. They go in with a end goal, right? And when you already have that end goal and you're going about in your life, right? You know that you're not just living for yourself, but you're living for somebody else. You become stronger, and you're reflecting that in every single interaction. You have that in the back of your head. It's like what your mother was saying in The Secret. If somebody said something negative, they'd say, don't say that. A common negative a common negative saying that I've heard people in Miami saying, and you can see it in social media, you can't date here, right? Oh, there's
hear
trash.
It all the time.
There's trash people. And when people tell me that, I say, stop. I always correct them. You are looking for love in the wrong places. And Miami is not the issue, right? The issue is internally. And people
you attract what you put out.
Exactly. So I always stop people. I say, nope. And the thing is, it's so important because when you're saying this, right? If somebody says, oh, there's trash here, right?
You got to go self-reflect in the mirror for a little bit and figure it out so that you attract the right person.
Right. So I always say, like, when and it's mainly men. I've gotten that comment from men. There's a lot of trash here. There's trashy people here. And I go, you are deciding to see what you want to see and deciding to remember what you want to remember. It's easier to remember negative things than positive
100%. Especially when you're diving into starting a relationship.
Right.
That's a whole process, is getting over the other person's differences with you or baggage or whatever. That's a whole commitment to even get through that process to reach the next step of the relationship.
Right.
It's like, I can't even. Have you been in a long-term relationship?
Yes.
Okay. What's your longest relationship?
3 years.
3 years. Okay. So take yourself back to when you started that, right? It's like you're treading unknown water.
Right.
Like you don't know if this other person is going to commit to that time with you. You don't want to overextend yourself and make a fool of yourself. Like there's all these other things. And like the first, couple months, 6 months maybe, is like just figuring out like, who is this person?
Right.
Like, is this going to work? Like setting boundaries. That's huge.
Right.
Oh my God. Setting boundaries, because like something that would make me mad, I would have to let Anna know, for example, and then it would be like, okay, like I'll swap this. And then if I did something that would piss her off, it'd be like, okay, I'm going to change this, but we want this to work. It's the craziest dynamic. Now looking back, it's like such a crazy dynamic.
Right. But you make it work. So business starts from the home, right? If you're going to do something kind, start it with your family. If you're going to negotiate, I think doing business with family is great. I think those who...
Keep it generational. I'm second generation. You're kind of second generation, right? Like our family's in real estate.
Right.
Gives us a leg up. Like, why not take advantage of that?
Right.
Man? Like, why are you going to go start from scratch when you could build off of something that your family has done? Are you crazy?
Exactly.
So many people do that nowadays, and I feel like it's a Western culture thing. Is like,
right.
let's all 4 siblings, one go to California, one go to Texas, one go to New York, and one go to Florida. 4 different corners of the map.
Right.
Like, and I'm the only one down here in Miami right now. The rest of my family's up there, so I kind of am playing into this, but it's like build together,
right?
And it's so much easier, right? Like you've done with your family, for example,
right? And even though I am second generation and I have great financial savvy people in my family, I love doing business with my family. Those are the first people I think of when I have a great business idea. When I find an opportunity, I always think in my family, right? And that's where it all starts. And even though I do a lot of business with family and I take my mother's advice, I have a lot of family that's in the banking world, I still have a financial consultant. Actually, one of my financial consultants here in Coral Gables, if you guys need a very good, young, motivated, and well-rounded financial consultant, Fernando Patino Paul. And he brought to me a lot of light into generational wealth, and it's such a great way because to live your life. Because when you're living, right, just the concept of I'm going to leave a legacy, right? You're already having a drive. When you go about into the business world, when you go about into a relationship, your drive is focused on the future rather than now. So, for example, I have, life insurance, right? Just a simple act of putting a certain amount towards your future and towards a generational wealth, that it's like even when you're gone, propels you to continue living. Like Indian people believe in the past life. I think people should also think in, your future life, and you should act on it now because it will bring abundance for you, for your children, and it'll just exude when you walk into a room, and it's attractive. It's the law of attraction. People want like Whitney Houston said, "We'll always live on." The heart, to have the heart always live on.
Sure. No, 100%. It's like you got to find this purpose in life, right? And I'm at an interesting point in my life right now, which is like I'm on the verge of wanting to have kids because it's me and Anna. We've been together for 3 years next month. It's like,
congratulations.
Thank you. That's great. But like, it's like, okay, I'm ready for the next step. I need more purpose. What am I working for here? Like I'm at that point where I'm like, I've been doing real estate for a long time. I have this beautiful house. Like I'd be comfortable here. Like, yes, I can sell it and trade up to a bigger house and get a Ferrari and all these things. Right. But that's not cutting it anymore. Like, it's like, okay, I need a kid. Like I need a purpose. I need to feel full in that way.
Right.
So it's like, I agree. Like you got to find a purpose. Yeah, it's
and
interesting.
You'll see there are many studies that show when a man has children, right?
The success through the roof.
And why is that?
Connections with the parents of like-minded individuals, I think.
Okay.
Like if I send my kids to go over a ransom, the quality of people that I'm tapping into is just insane.
Okay, what about the philosophy? What do you think? What do you think? Is it time?
Provide,
is it like what is the philosophy behind performers excelling when they have children?
Well, I think it just goes to purpose for a man. Like it's our biological purpose to reproduce as many times as possible to keep our species alive. Like, so I believe that that's our biological purpose, right? So it's like when you tap into that, you're activating deep. I don't even know what DNA, genetics, like all of those things that maybe you're leaning into, like you're activating that subconsciously right now. It's like, yeah, I can think that I know how much it's going to change me when I have a kid, but until you actually have one, I feel like it's not even comparable. So I don't know what kind of chemical reaction or like, maybe this isn't where you want to go, like the philosophy.
Of course, no, it's exactly where I wanted to go.
I think all of this is like just activated when you have a kid.
It's magical.
I can't even imagine. Do you have a kid?
4-legged dog.
Oh, you have a dog. Okay.
And funny thing, when I got a dog, I started excelling. I started performing.
It's responsibility.
Right. Responsibility and not being able to have the opportunity to purchase a home. When I got my other property, how
many properties do you own?
So with my family, we have a couple. I do business with family.
You live in Coral Gables, like right around the street. So for those of you watching, I don't know if we touched on that already, but like you're a neighbor.
Yes.
Coral Gables neighbor.
So it's a higher responsibility taps into a part of your brain that is focused on prioritizing. And when you can prioritize, you can manage your time. And when you can manage time, you're an astronaut. I always say I'm an astronaut. Everything falls into place beautifully, like a musical chord. There's a lot of science in music. There's a lot of art in time. And therefore, you become an artist and your life just becomes more beautiful. When you have that responsibility, and the more responsibility, the more pressured you are to make sure that your time is done correctly. And now you're sharing time with somebody because it's not just you, it's somebody else. And knowing that they're going to live on after you, that they're creating a timeline past your timeline is something that taps into your DNA and into your brain. And so that's why performers excel. And when you have that increased amount of responsibility, you get increased experience. And experience helps. There's this really funny saying in Spanish that says, "Más sabe el diablo por viejo que por diablo." The devil knows more through old age than through being a devil himself.
So his experiences.
Experiences, exactly. So I told you, I'm like,
This is great. I've never kind of gone into this deep, and I feel like as I host more of these, I become more and more open. So I would not have been able to have this conversation 10 episodes ago. Ain't no way. Ain't no way you're getting this out of me. So like, and this is interesting. Like, I think this is cool. Right. Okay, so kind of the kids sing. Now that was part of the quote that you read, right? Was that part of the quote you read? You were talking about family.
The law of attraction.
The law of attraction.
And the law of attraction ties in with the way the mind works, right? With the way that we as a society excel, right? And another really interesting book that goes over the way the mind works is called An Eternal Golden Braid. Have you read it? It's like this big.
Who's it by?
It's the author is Douglas R. Hofstadter.
Okay.
And
interesting.
He goes over, it's Gödel, Escher, and Bach. So Bach, the musician, and the other two are scientists and philosophers. And the book goes over so much and how as humans, we've processed information and how we get to a conclusion. And there's a lot of theories in the book. I don't want to spoil it because you have to, when you're reading this book, you go back and forth. You go back and forth because you have to remember certain theories. And a lot of people have the misconception that it goes over how they're connected, right? How the music is connected to science and philosophy. But really, it's how the brain works. And I remember earlier I was saying there is a science in music. So this book covers AI. This guy was way ahead of his time. Artificial intelligence. And, it's a pretty big topic. How often do you use artificial intelligence?
All the time. ChatGPT.
Okay.
I love ChatGPT.
And how often do you use it? Like all the time, it's like once a day, once a week, every hour.
So I'm taking a couple. So I just got out of military training, right? Okay. I never graduated.
Thank you for your service. I'm a military brat.
Are you for real?
My father was in the Army. He was in Special Forces.
No way.
Yeah, that explains a lot.
That's crazy. That's super cool.
Yeah. So you're Army?
Army, nice. Reserves. But they pay for schooling. Mm-hmm. They give you like $4,000 a year or whatever to like put towards classes. So I'm taking a couple classes right now. So for all my classes, I'm just ChatGPT. On top of that, when I write descriptions for properties, ChatGPT normally helps me out. Mm-hmm. Trying to think what else. Just like random questions that I have, ChatGPT. So maybe 3 times a week, something like that.
Okay. So ChatGPT says, we protect your privacy, but you're really creating a more intelligent.
Kind of feels like Zillow.
Imagine it. Well, that's what the Matrix is about. That it's like, we gave into the machine, and the machine went against. It's Zillow. Then it's either Zillow or ChatGPT that's going to kill us. One of the two.
That's great.
So, this book covers how the collectiveness of minds creates AI, and the collectiveness of minds over here with the musician, the philosopher, and the scientist is the way that the world has propelled the existence of humanity. Because collectiveness, right? You see it in you can go to a forest, and I don't know if you've seen the impact that one species makes on an entire creation of an entire habitat. So
like iguanas and pythons being invasive.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
That's where my mind goes.
Of course, every Floridian goes there. But so there was a study with wolves. They released these wolves, these endangered wolves too, and because of the wolves, entire forest that was burnt down completely flourished because the wolves were eating. It had something to do with the beavers coming back. The beavers were the ones that
mowing down all the trees and stuff.
So the beavers are the ones that create the, what's it called? You should know, you're from Wisconsin, the dam.
Yeah.
Damn. So they created the dams, and when the collection of water is there, more species started flourishing because they had a resource. And therefore, when more species, more birds were attracted, right? And therefore, it was an entire cycle, but it was through a collectiveness and one single source, right? The wolves is what helped bring this habitat back. And so collectiveness is really important. And the minds, all of us feeding into AI creates a generated response that is catering to you as well, but 100%. That it's catering to everybody else. It's a collectiveness of data in a systematic way, and it uses time, right? So time and space is really important with artificial intelligence, and the agent that knows how to master artificial intelligence is a very dangerous agent. We sell the world. You know, we have the power of selling habitats, right? And speaking of, right, we are very powerful in the way that a habitat can coexist with humanity. So I don't know if you've read, but there's a lot of proposals for our natural habitat to get built on.
The wall?
So in Florida, there are 9 parks that have a proposal to build hotels, pickleball courts. Damn, pickleball. I love pickleball.
They're opening up pickleball courts on the ocean, actually. I just saw a post today. Yeah.
Really?
It's like its first pickleball, like floating pickleball court, which I think is
floating pickleball court?
Yeah, like
you got to put it right here.
Yeah, we'll put it there, but like, I mean, that's going to hit.
These pickle heads.
Yeah, right?
They're going to be in space. The day we have to move to, humanity has to move to space, those pickle heads are going to find a way to
There's a lot of money in charging people, like, I don't know how much they charge to use the court, but apparently there's a ton of money and it's a growing sport because all these elderly people want to stay healthy and they got the money to pay. It's like, it's interesting.
So it's very worrisome. I am an advocate for conservation. This is what makes me so attracted to Coral Gables.
100%.
And
that's why it's so pretty here.
In Nicaragua, we are very ecological. We have a lot of ecological reserves. It's like Brazil. We are a provider. We're very rich in resources. And I can't go too into it because of political reasons, right? But deforestation there's some people that don't believe that it creates global warming, but doing deforestation is not too much about getting the trees. It's not about the trees. It's about the habitat. It's about who the habitants living there, and their lives matter, right? And to build on something for people who are just transient is such an insult to life.
So you're tying this back into the parks being built on
Correct.
In Miami for the transient culture that we've developed here.
Correct.
And we shouldn't ruin it for the locals or the people that live here currently permanently.
The life. The habitat.
And if it gets thrown out of balance, like you mentioned, the wolves, then we're in trouble. So Correct. The collectiveness. So I'm kind of tying all this stuff together.
Okay.
So what's he going?
So Luca Martinez over here on August 20th, the Florida Department of Environmental Protection announced the Great Outdoors Initiatives, which would add golf courses, pickleball courts, and resort-style hotels to 9 of the Florida state parks. All of this simultaneously. So Luca Martinez, beautiful photographer. He has the most beautiful photography that you could think of in the Everglades and all of these parks. And so
our Florida state parks are at risk of being destroyed.
It's incredible.
And 1,000-mile plus 20+ hour road trip around
the dedication of this guy.
All 9 of these Florida state parks.
I didn't even know we had that many state parks.
See what exactly we're gonna trade.
And East Coast and West Coast.
Pickleball, hotels, and golf.
again, transient lifestyles. These
Pickleball,
politicians
hotel,
are
and golf. It's called money.
transient,
called money.
though. But,
Yeah,
but look at the philosophy behind this.
No, of course.
Because pickleball,
So you know how much money is made off of like people on vacations,
how much money is made out of?
like travel.
It's $1 billion industry.
Insane.
I'm in the business.
Think of how much money, like, so.
I own short-term rentals. I own and manage multiple.
Okay, so that, right? So you have people, like, let's say you go to Europe. How much money are you spending in that hotel? I don't know, $300-$400 a night.
Right.
Whatever. Think of how much money you spent. You come with
And
10,
tax.
think of how much money you spent, $10,000, and you're completely ready to blow every penny of it.
Right.
Like, people will pay to golf at golf courses. Like, Trump Doral is like $450 or something.
Right.
I've golfed it. I've played it. Right? It's like the amount of money made in that industry is insane. So I understand why they're doing it. Do I agree? No. I think that the park should be kept.
And look how beautiful it. Turtles. He gets crocodiles. He goes down with the crocs. Gnarly.
Oh, he does a whole production. This is like a very professionally made video.
Of course. LucaMartinez.fl.
On Instagram.
Right. Camp Helen State Park. Proposed new.
It's obvious it's a calculated move and a blatant attempt to silence us and to keep the public in the dark.
Right. To do it all simultaneously, the proposals.
They're proposing
Reasons.
all of them at the same time.
Right.
And voting.
And it's really sad because what he brings up is that these natural habitats, if it weren't for their economical benefit that they reap for the public, we have water, fresh water, and if it weren't for that, there wouldn't be any Everglades. But it's sad to think that an entire habitat, if we weren't not users, right? If we couldn't take advantage of them, right? We would put ourselves before. Nature is our friend. That's why Mother Nature. Why do we say Mother Nature and not Father Nature, right? Because a child can choose to ever touch his father, but the mother, it's like you can't. You don't have a choice. The first time you're born, you're gonna touch your mother. But you can choose to not be in contact with your father. But a mother there's not really a choice.
Like
Nature is not a choice. Mother Nature.
I feel like a father could never compete with the relationship of the mother-kid relationship.
And I know we're going to receive backlash for this, because with a political agenda of
no way.
The gender and everything.
Ain't no way a kid and a mom's relationship can be messed with, but it's so much closer than a father and a kid.
Right.
So much closer.
Right.
You come out of them. That's
exactly.
You are that.
Right.
That's crazy.
Right.
That whole creation process is just insane. But yeah.
Exactly. So I think this video definitely needs more attention because he captures. It's captivating what he captures in nature.
On the road and just got the news of the Florida State Park meetings were postponed. I was expecting
And one of the
this crazy
things
momentum
that
and pressure.
he mentions is that if it weren't for the fact that we reap the benefits of this ecosystem, we wouldn't even care about it.
Yeah, we just walk all over it, do
Right.
what we want with it, twist it, throw it, smash it, crash it.
Right. Right.
It's interesting.
I
I think Florida's such a unique situation too because you do have the ocean.
So right
and
now, meetings
Everglades.
expected to be the week of September 2nd, 2024. Right now are these meetings.
Today.
Today.
Or yesterday.
So Rene Paz, you were mentioning that it's such a professional production.
Oh.
He worked with Rene Paz. He was on the road for 25 hours.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Unreal.
So what? Now let me hear your take on this. So Florida obviously has the Everglades and the ocean, and the land in between is basically built out or built up, right? Like there's not much more land that can be built on unless we move into the Everglades. You can't build out into the ocean.
Right.
Now,
But here's the thing. If we bring these, hotels, pickleball, there's traffic that comes with it. You know, people are like, oh, we have an abundance of land, right? But, you know, commercial real estate, the way that we evaluate the price of a commercial real estate is the footprint, right? And more footprint it causes, you know, Coral Gables is beautiful because our footprint is low in the residentials. And noise, right? I mean, look, just the other day I was playing with my little sister and so many people who scream. I mean, they get passionate. They're like, sorry. But they get passionate, you know, just the pickleball goers, you know, would already cause so much noise in an environment that solely depends on the food chain through smell and through noise. You know, just the cooking and everything. The animals will be completely, they're going to die out. And there will be no running water. And then we're going to be the next California. You remember what happened in California? The droughts.
The wildfires.
And so
forest fires.
It's like, you know, that's what I would tell, you know, Californians, I'm like, leave your politics over there. This is Florida.
This is interesting because you're against the growth, or not against the growth, but you're against the turning
development. And this is coming from
a
local who reaps the benefit. I own short-term rentals. I also, you know, my family's are developers, and I think that speaks volume. You know, somebody who's in this business, because it's not all about the money. It's about, we're going back to what we were saying earlier. It is about the collectiveness and the purpose of drive. Because money comes and goes, right? Your looks comes and goes, but ethics is something that is a foundation that my family has always taught me. When you act with integrity, you'll naturally think with clarity. But you have to think with clarity to act with integrity. And love with generosity. So love it starts within the family. And when you do it correctly with your spouse, with your family, you'll do it in everything. And you'll never work a day of your life when you love with generosity. And it'll come back. It'll attract. And that's a cycle. And we learn so much from nature that we need to respect it, because we need to respect our Mother Nature.
Interesting. How do you think the Citadel development is going to shake down? As you know, I talk about this a ton.
Of course.
A ton. The amount of money that we're going to make.
It's a glass building, something like that? I didn't understand that part.
I know that the plans came out. I didn't even really read it. I'm just
I didn't understand the detail. I was like, wait, is that ChatGPT? Are we making a mistake? When I saw that, I was like,
he's got so much money. He can do anything he wants with it, but like,
hey, Mike.
Regardless.
Is it Mike?
No, it's Ken Griffin.
Ken Griffin, thank you. I know.
So he donated $30 million. I can't remember if it was Gulliver or Ransom. I'm pretty sure it's Gulliver, to reserve slots for his
children,
parents, for the people that work here,
right.
Their children to go there.
Incredible.
So us being in Coral Gables, I'm seeing dollar signs, lots of dollar signs.
Right.
Now, you have an interesting take, and I agree with all the parks and all these things, right? I'm trying to unravel all this shit that's going on in my brain right now.
It's overwhelming.
Everybody, like, the perfect scenario is to keep your local parks in your local area beautiful and pristine and like collective and all those things that you're talking about. But it's also great to have the money.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
The money isn't everything.
If they came to Coral Gables and were like, hey, I'm changing this park on the corner right here. There's a park on the corner right here.
Right.
Right. The story with this park is insane, by the way.
Okay.
The neighbor on the corner was getting mad that dogs were allowed to be at that park.
Right.
Now she complained to the city or something, and now dogs no longer go in that park. So it's just a park sitting there, and I don't know. It's an interesting story in and of itself. Local
Nobody really
Coral
uses
Gables
the park.
stuff. Yeah, like they were fining people for having dogs in there and all this. But
what's the point of a park?
If they came to this park and said, hey, we're gonna knock it out and build a hotel, I would lose it.
Of course.
I would lose my
livid.
shit.
Of course.
I would go ballistic, and everybody else would as well. But something like that's a little further away and isn't my immediate area, that's going to drive a ton of value in dollars. All right. Maybe that's, I'm a little bit more comfortable with that, right?
Okay.
So is there a way that we could get the best of both worlds?
Maybe do what the pickleball we're doing, just create a resort on the water. Don't we already have that? Are they called cruises?
There you go.
Are you not entertained? Do you need more? And I guess it's just, I think it all comes down to the taxes. You know, are you familiar with the taxes that it brings, the occupancy taxes, and that incentive, occupancy taxes, and you know.
What do you mean by occupancy tax?
So when you stay if you go to a city, at least in Florida, this is how it works. When you come to Florida and you stay less than 6 months, by the way, you should also know this because this applies to landlords. If you have a rental agreement of less than 6 months, you need to pay occupancy tax on either the tenant or you, but it legally needs to be paid.
That's why it's in the lease, is like tax with tax or
Correct.
without tax.
Correct. And being a transient city, this is a tax that was just naturally. I love how we're talking about death and taxes. If you have to put a name, I think it should be called death and taxes. You know. So this transient city is a culture. Because what is culture?
A way of life, a collectiveness.
Right. And it's crazy how taxes can drive a culture. That's why it's so important. Like, that's why money isn't everything. It is everything, but it's a paradox. It's not everything, but it is everything. Because the way you spend shows the way that you're going to build.
It's a double-edged sword, right? As unfortunate it is, the government's like, if you turn that park to a hotel, the tax revenue that they're going to generate, like, you're not getting, the valuation on that land is significantly different than if there's a building there, and the building is assessed at $2 million, for example. The amount of taxes that they're going to collect on a $2 million property is probably $30,000 to $40,000.
Right.
Like, they're going to put that stuff there because it's going to generate that every year. Yeah. Right? So imagine, like you're talking about, 10 different parks or 9 different parks at a couple $1 billion of development each park. The amount of money you're talking is just astronomical.
Right.
So as unfortunate as it is, like, they're going to take that into consideration. And then you got the politicians, like, doing all sorts of sneaky stuff in there. You know what I mean? It's like...
Right. But you'd think with all these taxes, you know, I wish... And maybe there is something, and I'm just ignorant. I wish there was a way where we could actually see, like, that we could audit. Where are these taxes going? Right? Because, you know, another example is, you know, when politicians are running and they're doing their campaigns, it's like, what do you need that money for? The marketing? Is that really your marketing budget? Like, what's going on? I don't know if you heard about the casino proposal on the beach. Has been going on for many years, and imagine, you know, Miami Beach, a casino on Miami Beach, right? The traffic, the noise, and what's gonna happen with the turtles?
I don't even go to Miami. I don't even like Miami Beach.
Exactly. Most local people, everybody thinks when you say I'm from Miami, oh, you live on the beach. No, locals tend to avoid the beach.
Even the Venetian Islands and like Pine Tree Drive and all those, like Indian Creek is cool. I think that's really cool because it's gated. Like, nobody can get in there. Right. Tom Brady, by the way, has like he flies his helicopter from the private airport, and he has a boat that is basically a landing pad for his helicopter, and he pulls it out to the middle of the ocean, lands, and then takes it back to his house. Like, that's the ultimate dream. But anyways, beyond that, like, there's so much commotion over there. Like, the Venetian Islands, for example, like, depending on where you send your kids to school, the drive is like insane. And unless you're flying them to school in a helicopter, like, I just don't understand why people love the Venetian Islands so much and Miami Beach and like just that area. I have no idea.
Well, scientifically speaking, did you know blue naturally gives a euphoric feeling in the body.
Yeah, I have a.
You're like, I know. Every single time I look into the mirror, I see my blue eyes.
I was gonna say I can't afford the ocean, so I have to settle for a pool. But yeah, absolutely. It's like I understand like being attracted to the water and like the health benefits of it and kind of that energy that it gives off.
Right.
But dive deeper.
So
Every
single time I bring water, you go dive deeper. Plot twist: I don't know how to swim.
For real?
Of course, I know how to swim. So it's beautiful, right? You want to attract beauty. You want to be around beauty, and it comes with a cost, right? And when you have a concrete jungle, man-made jungle, this is what I always call Miami. It's a jungle. It's a concrete-made jungle. You're going to start, when you're in a jungle, what do you think about when you think of a jungle?
Trees.
Okay.
Snakes. The Jungle Book. I literally think of like a kid with a bear like running around.
And what else do you think of? Other than the...
Chaos a little bit.
A little bit, right? And you think of the food chain, the survival of the fittest, right? When you live in a jungle, right, it starts becoming survival of the fittest. And at the end of the day, nature will always win. The jungle will flourish, right? And there are animals that, so forest is different than a jungle. A forest may be burned and it'll restore. And it takes very little, just one little small aspect of the forest, such as one animal can create an entire trajectory, can change the trajectory of a habitat, like as we mentioned earlier, the wolves. Yeah. So a jungle is different. A jungle is so there's a lot of jungles in Nicaragua, Brazil, South America. You think jungles, right? And there's a lot that happens in the jungle. Like it's a vicious, you have to stay alive. You can't just, you don't go camping in a jungle. You go camping to the forest, right? Would you camp in a jungle? No, you probably wouldn't survive. So if we start creating a bigger jungle, we're going to start having to worry about surviving and the fulfillment of simply living.
100%. That's already happening.
And then you see that in cities. That's why I think there's a study that shows the highest rates of depressions are in bigger cities, right? Because of that aspect. People don't understand why, but just the eternal golden braid, because when I dive into that book, I am perplexed by it. I couldn't fathom to think that I didn't know the way that the human brain functions before. And
that's what happens with books. It's crazy. You read it and you're like, I should have read this.
People need to read more books. It's surprising. I bump into a lot of people that they don't read enough.
Well, every book you read, it's like, oh, I wish I would have read that 15 years ago. Because what I learned from that book, I wish I would have known. And then it just stacks and stacks and stacks. So it becomes a race of like, how many books can you read as quick as possible?
And that's what AI is here for.
Interesting. Yeah, you download a language into your brain and you're good.
Exactly.
But anyways, let's keep going on the deeper of like the Venetian and like that stuff.
In the jungle, you're just focusing on a survival. And is this really... That's why the city isn't meant for everybody. I have family that live in Delaware, and my mother had obesity when she was here. My mother had obesity, and now she looks better than ever living in Delaware. And it's that state of mind that changes. She's not living in a jungle anymore. She's living in a forest where there is ample space, where you don't feel like you need to survive. And those anxieties and so I think it's beautiful to keep a jungle in the corner, but let the forest be the forest.
There's a lot of people down here that go to Wyoming for the summer. Like they'll buy a house up in Wyoming.
Really?
And then during the summer, like they'll go up just to kind of have that that difference that you're talking about. And like, I think there's such an innate nature in humans for farming and like cattle and like, maybe not cattle, but farming, like all of that stuff, right? So there's a lot of people that talk about that duality of having that.
Right.
Super interesting.
Right.
Anyways.
And so I think it's really important to just let the forest be the forest. Let it live. Like and even the inhabitants of the forest, they have a life too. And they create the forest. And it's impressive to me, the type of habitants that are in forest. So my mother went up north, and there's a lot of Amish people.
100%. I grew up around them.
And
not like in their culture immediately, but they were always
like that explains a lot.
They were riding the buggies on the streets and stuff, right? Like middle of nowhere, Wisconsin. I used to shovel cow shit at 4 a.m. Like I was that type of guy. I'd be like, we'd harvest corn and we'd have a big pile of corn extra that wouldn't fit in the truck, and I would like lay in it and play in it and do like snow angels in it, and then I'd go to school, be like pulling corn out of my pockets and all this stuff. But like, I lived
what a
that
different
life.
world.
Way different. But again, the hunger, the motivation, the drive, the jungle feeling that you're talking about brought me to Miami. I always wanted to go to a bigger city where I could be dominant in a wealthy market, like Coral Gables, for example, have the Ferraris, have just that, like that whole entire lifestyle. Like I always wanted that. But I don't forget the forest, meaning where I'm from, my home, that peace, that closeness to nature. I feel like I felt a lot closer to nature up there.
Right.
Granted, I still feel close to it here because of all the trees and stuff with Gables,
But
which
you
is
were
why it's such a
attracted
beautiful
to
area.
Coral Gables.
Yeah.
You know, we always go back to our roots.
Mm-hmm.
We're very fixated on our roots, I think, naturally, right? And especially with having a healthy upbringing, which sounds like you did.
Yeah. That's a different conversation.
We all have. That's for another episode. So I grew up in Granada, which translates to big nothing. Gran, nada.
That's what it translates to, Granada.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
A big nothing.
And we actually have a Granada here.
That's kind of sad.
But it's quite something. It's beautiful. Colonial city. And it reminds me so much of Coral Gables. And Coral Gables reminds me so much of Granada. And I have a history with working around preservations and conserving history. And I have appreciation for it.
Are you on the historic board?
I'm trying to be.
You should be.
Thank you. I think you have to. I know somebody. I actually have a contact right here. On Country Club Prado, which I walk every single day. It's right in front of my house. In the back of my house, technically.
You're talking about the Granada, the golf course?
It's very close. So Country Club Prado.
Oh, Country Club Prado. I know exactly where that is.
Have you ever walked by there? It's beautiful. People.
It's a big like open space park, right?
It is.
Yeah, okay.
It is. But it's a Prado, and it goes. I'd say. So it goes from Coral Way to 8th Street. Mm-hmm. So how many?
The way up, yeah.
So how many streets is that? A lot. So
25, 20.
Around there. And I met the other day a gentleman who was on the historic board, because did you know that in Coral Gables there is an incentive when you have a plate that shows when you have a home and it follows the guidelines that takes into consideration the conservation of the historical context of the home. They give you a
plaque, right?
A plaque. Thank you. English not good looking. And a lot of homes you see in the Gables, you see it, the plaque, and so Nesquik, right, is a home that it has has a lot of historical context. Nesquik, the owner of Nesquik lived here in Coral Gables. He sold
like the milk company, or
exactly
like the
one of
food,
his
drink,
many
whatever.
homes.
Yeah.
Right. He is neighbors with the CEO of Ocean Bank. They live. They have the Biltmore Golf Course right behind. Beautiful. My friend Janet Pressman, shout out to her.
The president of Burger King lives right there too. The people in this neighborhood are insane.
Right.
Anyways.
So, and again, when my mother always says, go out and talk to people, and go out and network, but mainly she's like, even if it's not sparking a deal, but the fact that you're just around them, you're seeing the way they take care of their homes, you're seeing the way they speak, you're seeing the way they carry themselves. It's the law of attraction. You will mirror that. And so Nesquik's, the previous owner of Nesquik, his home is absolutely beautiful. But then again, art is in the eye of the beholder. So I learned Janet Pressman mentioned that she's with Desert Realty, by the way. Janet Pressman.
Desert Development Realty.
Yes, correct. So she mentioned something about inheriting the tax. It was such a special home because it was, you could grandfather the tax. And I think it had to do something with, because it was, are you familiar with that? Grandfathering a tax?
So I know like the homestead exemption and like you can port the homestead exemption, but when you pass down to kin, you can keep the tax base the same?
So I believe it has something to do with, for 10 years, when you get a Coral Gables plaque, is that how you say it?
Yeah.
There are incentives towards it. And I need to do some further research. I thought you perhaps, you'd know about it. It's the only downside is if you want to do a remodeling, you're going to get an inspection. You're going to get inspectors all up in your house.
So there's 2 properties for sale right now that are historic. 2 of which are in this neighborhood.
Okay.
There's one near the Biltmore Golf Course on Granada, not backing up to the golf course, on the other side.
Okay.
Coral Stone property.
Okay.
I know for a fact that that's historic. I haven't been in it, but I'm not sure if they have a plaque or anything. There's another one that's been historic for 2 years. I actually looked at it prior to buying this house, and the person that bought it definitely made a mistake. But like the renovations and all that stuff, all the red tape is absolutely insane, like to go through. Now, Ron DeSantis came out and said, hey, any historic home that is in a flood zone no longer needs to abide by the historic rules. So I know a lot of people are trying to get that exemption or be able to change their property based on that flood zone. Like Granada Golf Course, flood zone. Here, not flood zone. Right? So like you have to look on the FEMA map to figure out where you're going. So I know that that's a big thing with historic homes right now, which is super interesting.
Right.
On top of that, and now I can't remember, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe that if your property is not safe, meaning unsafe structure,
Okay.
you can completely like razz it and then rebuild it. I don't know if that's true or not. That's what I've heard through the grapevine.
Okay.
But that's kind of my knowledge as far as historic homes and kind of what's going on in Coral Gables with it. And just, I only really work this neighborhood. Like I just crush this neighborhood, hangers, phone calls, everything. Like you're getting me. Like I live here. You know what I mean?
The intent of the Historic Preservation Division is to promote the educational, cultural, and economic welfare of the public by preserving and protecting historic structures or sites. And as Miami Beach is another one of them. So they do have quite peculiar hours. They are Mondays and Wednesdays because it's all volunteer. Nobody gets paid. This is a volunteer to be on it. And there's mandatory meetings that you have to go, applications and forms, board meeting agendas. So I know one of the big, there's been a lot of not scandals, but there's been a lot of friction.
Oh yeah.
With
high friction.
The Coral Gables politics. I don't know if you heard about Little Gables being
annexation.
What do you think about that?
There's a trailer park there. That's why there's so much backlash about it, right?
Right. But the fire department is... Have you heard what the fire department thinks about this?
Well, I think that I got a note or door hanger on my door, and it says, say no to the annexation on behalf of the fire department because we are overworked. Or like there's not enough firefighters to...
Coral Gables, from my understanding... I mean, Miami-Dade has 500 firefighters, and the Coral Gables, I think it's less than 100. We have less than 100 firefighters. You know, to be compliant on the steps to take when a building is on fire, there needs to be at least 45 firefighters on site. We actually, not recruit, but through the goodwill of Miami-Dade Fire Department, we actually comply with that when there is a building on fire. 45.
That seems
to be
excessive.
compliant. That is. Have you ever tried to go through a fire? There's a lot of them. There's a lot. These people really are risking their life, and with higher temperatures, look at California. Look at all the, look at all the fires. Orange County, with rising temperatures, and we go back to square one. These forests regulate the temperatures, that breeze, that just having trees to cool down. The cement gets really hot. I mean, that's why these poor dogs that when they walk,
they started painting it white in California. They were painting the roads white to reflect the heat instead of attract the sun.
Interesting.
Super interesting.
Interesting. So, I mean, we're probably going to go, we're probably going on that same road as well, literally, as well. But, there's people that the firefighters are against it. Of course, developers are going to put money into that. I know it's for sure. It's just a small part, right?
Again, it goes back to the tax revenue that the city's going to get. That's how it works.
Right. And at the end of the day, remember, survival of the fittest. We're in the jungle, and and if you can't climb up, so the people that are there, they're gonna have to move out. They're gonna have to go up north. They're gonna have to, actually get, if it works, the trailer right out. If it works, they're gonna have to start, working on these trailers. Are meant to be moved, right?
Yeah,
I know there's some.
I've never sold a trailer. I know they test us on it in the state exam for the real estate state exam, but I don't know. I'm not really into that stuff.
Because I'll tell you right now, I've driven by that trailer park, and I can guarantee you that I see some trailers in the same exact positions for many years.
Probably.
In the same yeah. So I'm like, did it even work?
I think there's more permanent ones, one with wheels, etc. But I almost bought a house right across the street from that cemetery. You know the cemetery right there?
Of course.
So there was one for sale, but I was just living right across from that. A little interesting. But
at least you have silent neighbors.
What?
You'd have silent neighbors.
There you go. Right. No silent neighbors. But it was before I could afford this property here. I was looking for my first house, and I looked at that area a lot. Drove around there. Less expensive than Coral Gables, but still close enough. I know a lot of people that live just north of 8th Street, and it's still Coral Gables address on their mailing address.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's a unincorporated. It's a great investment area.
Oh,
most of them are
right next to Little
rentals.
Little Havana right there. It's it's a super interesting area. But so Sofia, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure. Absolutely. Hopefully we provided some value. I think we did. Where can the audience find you? Now, I did hear from somebody that you have 2 Instagram accounts.
Yes.
You have a regular one and then a walk through with me one?
Correct.
Okay.
My personal is Soy Chica Nica, which means I'm a Nicaraguan chick. My second one is Walk Through With Me. And a lot of people don't know why I chose Walk Through With Me. But it is the last step in real estate when you're about, as you know.
Like the final walkthrough.
Exactly. And it's the most exciting. It's is this real?
Yep.
Is this really happening? This is, it's usually on closing day or the day before. And it's and you're doing it with me. So walk through with me.
Okay, that's awesome. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put those, if you're on YouTube watching right now, that's going to be below in the details. So thank you so much. It was good talking with you.